Hello, Miss Michelle. Hello, Eric. As I said before I stopped the recording and restarted it, love y'all both.
Eric says, love you, mama. I say, love you, mama.
Oh, I had to stop because I wanted to ask some personal questions that might bore you guys. I wanted to ask about Bella. And I asked about the Dow, given the coronavirus thing. And this is why Eric told Michelle that he wanted to talk about the power of vibration, especially fear, including how to alter them when you feel sad, when you feel angry, when you feel fear. I guess how the collective can, have this mass fear and possibly even hysteria, and what that can do to things like the Tao, etc. So he goes on to say there's great value in this understanding, especially at the time in the world when so many people feel fear and control in what happens outside of us. So yeah, that's let's go for that.
Yeah. Eric just says, Mom, he says, it's so important. And he said that there's a lot of talk, different spiritual communities, different spiritual teachers talks about different angles of vibration and what it means. And he says the big thing that we need to understand is vibration is everything.
Yeah.
Vibration is absolutely everything. He's calling it our human right, or our human built-in GPS system, that our vibration is what connects to the frequencies that are available to us, which there are many, he says, and we have far more control over that within ourselves than we have any control on anything on the outside of us. And by understanding that, he says, by being able to learn how that works and to understand the importance of it, is not only good for us as individuals, because that's the key to manifestation, but it's also good for us to understand, well, he says we're all one, right? We're all connected, right? So being that we're all connected, if everybody understands our vibration and how important it is to assess that, then we also can understand that as a collective, if we're all paying attention to our vibration, if we all understand it, then we're going to have a better chance at leveling ourselves out to not manifest something into our collective that we don't need to have. And that's what he was pointing to with the coronavirus, and with a lot of the different things in the world that are going on outside of us. He said that it can be so easy to fall into that trap of fear. And he says, we have to remember there's so many people that say, well, we've had these different viruses before. We've been through this before. The world's been through this. And he goes, and that's right. And that's very true. And he says, but also remember that the power of social media right now, which has amazing pieces to it, it's great in so many ways, but it also can spread fear very fast.
Yeah.
And he says, just by, like he's pointing, he says, Mom, one tweet, one something, just like you said, something gets put out and that can change everything. That can affect the vibration like that.
Yeah.
So he says, if you don't understand how to maintain your personal vibration, if you don't understand yourself, he says, you're willy-nilly like a compass spinning around in circles out in the universe, going around, and you're directing here and directing there. And he says that it's not even really your own vibration. You're being directed at what's happening on the outside of you. And he says that's what creates a lot of these big rushes that a lot of us feel. He says those of you that are really sensitive to collective energy, you can understand by when the moon phases come, you can feel how people are feeling. And he says, so you'll be feeling this fear right now that is amping up. And he says, and this can create havoc in areas where we really don't need to have it. So he said, first of all, he just wants everybody to understand this is important. He says, this isn't woohoo mumbo jumbo. He's doing this with his arms. Like, it's not this woohoo stuff that doesn't really make a difference. He says, this is how we are. This is how we're built. We weren't taught how to take care of our vibration. We weren't even taught that we had vibration to take care of. But he says, so I just want everybody to be able to understand that you have so much more control with what happens with you, and so much more input into what happens in the collective, into the universe, than you really think that you do. It has to start with each and every individual. It has to. He says, and that's how we connect one by one, and we can change the direction of where things are going. Now's the chance that we have to jump onto this. That's why these experiences are happening. They're like the adversity that we're facing as a collective, just like we face the adversity in our own lives.
Yeah.
He says it's an opportunity for us to say, hey, this is history in the making. And he's like, guys, do you realize this is history in the making? And this information that we have as a collective, as the world begins to understand and awaken, he says this is history in the making to show how we can change the course of future, that we don't have to choose pain and we don't have to choose destruction, that there is another way, and it all starts with each and every individual.
That's right. It's weird. Now I get it. I haven't had any fear about the coronavirus, but I felt unsettled for some reason. I just couldn't put my finger on it, but maybe it's just I'm feeling the collective fear that vibration's affecting my vibration. It's vibrational rape.
He just said, he said, Mom, that's very true. And he's kind of holding his hand under his chin like this, like he's being very wise. And he just says, it's very true. And he says, and you feel much more than you give yourself credit to.
Okay.
You actually pick up on so much more. And he says, and many people do. He says, think of how many times somebody walks into a room or into a building and says, something just feels off. Or I don't know what it is about today. The sun's shining, everything looks okay. There's nothing bad going on in my life. Why do I feel off?
I
And
know.
he
I
says, and these
do.
are these little things.
It's a feeling in my
Mm-hmm.
solar plexus like butterflies, that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I do fault the media and the politicians on both sides for using this coronavirus thing to weaponize, weaponizing it and using it to advance their political agenda. I think it's awful. And social media is used or the bullets basically for that weapon. And they need to stop. Really, that used to not be the case. But now Democrats, Republicans, I don't care who they are, they will turn on each other and weaponize everything they can,
Mm-hmm.
including tragedies or pandemics that are not the
Just,
fault of
he's
the other
just
person.
agreeing.
Yeah.
He's agreeing, and he's just saying it's unfortunate, but it's also necessary for us to be able to go through this process. He says we've gotten ourselves to this point, and um, he's showing that there's going to be, and he's not saying that this is happening as like one big experience, but he's showing that over the next 20 years, that there's going to be a huge advancement in the understanding of our energetic system and
Good.
how we are affecting everything. He says that we're really at the like the iron age of it. We're really
Yeah.
in the darker days of it, is what we would look back historically saying, hey, do you remember when we thought we couldn't do this? Or hey,
God,
do you
yeah.
remember when we had no idea what was going on? He's like, it's something that will be weaved into education. It's something that will really change, but we are the change right now. And he said that there's still this platform that exists of destruction over power, over
Yeah.
greed.
Yeah.
So like with the social media or politics, that there's still this upper hand that is the ones turning the keys. They're the ones that are allowing this to go out, and the voices of all of us, he says, are going to be heard more and more. However, the power comes from within ourselves. And he says, and I don't say that lightly, he says it's
Yeah.
truly time that everybody understands that the power really does have to come within yourselves. No longer can we stand by and just allow decisions to be made around us. No longer can we stand by and just allow ourselves to curl into a ball. We have to stand up and start making changes for ourselves so that we can clearly make an impact on the rest of the world.
Well,
Ooh,
how can
Erik.
we wow, that's good. He's on his soapbox. How can we get the media and politicians and other people with mouthpieces that are on their soapbox? How can we get them to stop instilling fear in the masses in order to, well, in order to advance their agenda?
He says, well, that's simple. He says the easiest way is don't pay attention to it.
Okay.
Don't give attention to it. He's
Yeah.
like, if it's like, he says it's drama. It's the
Oh,
same way that we would look at
yeah.
drama.
Easier said than done.
Understand that it's very true. And he says, and this is the other part too, where our focus is run by our willpower, our will. So what we choose to focus on is no different than whether we are changing our eating lifestyle, whether we are changing
Ah,
an activity or putting exercise into our life. We have to learn to understand, and we must take into consideration that our will and our focus and what we choose to focus on has a great amount of power into what is being manifested. And he says that's where everything starts with. So, what's the intent of what you're listening to? He says, think about why you're listening to it. Because if we don't have people that are paying attention to what's being said, so if you're not, it doesn't mean, well, that's right. He says, I want to be clear. It doesn't mean that everybody turns their back and just decides to not know what's going on, that we all just shut everything down and we don't pay attention, because he says that's not really doing what we want either. So he says the thing is pay attention to what you're listening to. Really take stock of what you feel out of what's being said. And this is the importance of really understanding where your beliefs are and listening to your gut, maintaining the personal vibration, because that allows you to be clear. That allows you to have more strength and power within yourself, so you start to feel clearer. And when you can do that, you listen to any politician, anybody that's in any piece of power, any piece of media, and you can take what you want from it and shut it down. Don't keep spreading it. Don't keep passing it along on your Facebooks.
oh God,
Don't
yeah.
keep going from YouTube video to YouTube video, trying to
Mm.
watch every angle of the same thing, because eventually it turns into being addicted to the vibration.
Ooh,
Because
wow.
is something that we can, just like drama, it's something that feeds within us, that disconnects us from our own heart, um, our own thinking. It's like allowing ourselves to go into um, into overdrive. He says it's allowing somebody else to drive, and it takes us away
Yeah.
from our own stuff. So he says that's why reality TV and all of that stuff, it became so popular, because it allowed the heavy, busy mind of the world, where everybody was feeling so depressed. And he's talking about when reality TV really came out, there was something going on in the economy. There was a lot of changes that were happening, and there was a lot of um, heaviness when it came to money and jobs and all kinds of things. So reality TV took people away. It took them
Okay.
into this different place. And so he says that vibration is addictive. It's addictive.
Wow.
So if you don't pay attention to what you're focusing on and what you're feeding yourself, he says then you're going to be continuing to build into that. And when everybody does that around the world, it amps it up. So he says all of these politicians and all of these people that are on their soapbox, that are speaking more into fear, because he says listen to what they're saying, take the point of what they're saying, and how much else do they talk around, how much talking, because you don't need to have so much focus on it. Educate yourself, make your opinions, make your beliefs, spread what you believe in, share and talk about what you believe in, but don't hang off the vibrations that have to do with promoting hate, that have to do with promoting fear, that have to do with promoting separation, because our universal energy supports love and anything that supports that. So when you turn to that side of things and you choose to put your focus and your intention and your will onto those things, they will multiply. This doesn't have to be a fight between good and evil.
Well, yeah, it's fear has always been the best tool to oppress the masses. I mean, public figures, the media, religious leaders all throughout history use that. It's, instilling fear in the masses to make them do their bidding, and that's just really sad. So, is there some sort of mantra we can say when we're listening to a politician saying that, or Fox or CNN? Because we don't want CNN take the wheel. I'm addicted to Hallmark now, so it's like, Hallmark, take the wheel, please, right now. But yeah, is there any
He says
mantra
it's a
we can?
safer bet, Mom.
Hmm?
He says that's a safer bet, Mom.
I know. Everybody just freaking watch Hallmark. Every once in a while, look at the CDC. What are they saying and recommending? But forget it. So, but yes, give us a mantra. When we're listening to an anchorman say, or a woman say something that's extremely fearful and perhaps not true, perhaps it is. What do we say? What can we?
The first thing he just says, I will not feed into fear. I am the
Good.
vibration of love. And he
Oh.
says, you keep it simple. He says it's just like snapping the elastic band on your wrist. When something fearful comes up, you remind yourself. That's true too. He says also remind yourself that what's being fed in the media is also being, he's calling it exploited, is being raised up to be, he's being an anchor man right now, and he's just saying, here we are at the local car wash where the biggest red car just came through to be cleaned. He says they can take anything and make it sound really big, really scary.
Yeah.
And he said, so keep in mind that as you're listening to this, you remind yourself that I am the vibration of love. I am the creator of my own reality. And he says, and also understand too, that when we pay attention to the vibration and when we are understanding that our own personal vibration also creates our own reality. And he says this could get a little bit complicated, but which reality do you want to live in? Because if you entertain fear and you remind yourself of the fear, you're going to live in evidence of that fear in everything in your reality.
Yeah,
So
the
he says
media just
that's
wants ratings.
important.
Remember that. They don't give a flying rat's ass about us. I mean, probably some do, but they want ratings, and they will say anything for ratings, even if it makes your heart drop.
That's right. He said best thing to do is if you feel that way, shut it off.
Yeah.
Do something else. He says
Hallmark, I'm telling you.
change your direction. Yes.
Hallmark is not
Yes.
sponsoring this video. I'm just telling you. Okay, let me tell you, ask this. Does this corona related fear vibration, can it actually physically make the virus more powerful?
He said yes.
Or
The thing
spread
is that
faster even?
it can. It can. He says it does have that potential. Anything does that creates fear. Because he says that this is multi-layered, meaning that there are different components to it, because the reason why it's here have different components to it. And so he says that when we speak in vibration, yes, we could do that. And he also says on a personal level, focusing on fear also lowers your vibration, that lowers your immune system. So it also makes you more susceptible to illness.
And probably
So
not
he
able
said,
to fight it as well, you know?
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So he says, understand that it's important to educate yourself on it, but not live in the fear of it, because we can do that. We can potentially make it bigger. He's not saying so much as a collective, he's really going down to the individual person, like saying the individual person focusing that fear and it being making themselves sick, um, putting themselves in line with the virus, being on the same vibration.
Oh, yeah, but I don't want people to be motivated by fear, but there have been, maybe it's more about responsibility or just common sense. There have been people who don't seem to have enough, not fear, but whatever, and they don't take precautions. Like the guy whose family and he were quarantined, but he says, screw it, I'm going to take my daughter to the middle school dance, and the whole school has to shut down. Or somebody I know started having symptoms, went to the rodeo. I mean, it's just so irresponsible. So some people don't have enough, what would you call it? I don't want them to have fear, but caution, common
Yeah,
sense.
and Erik says, and so that's what he was trying to say is, let's be smart, people. Understand that it's a virus, like many viruses that kill many people, that are, he's saying, immune sensitive. So people that have illness already or that have lung conditions, he says, you have to be responsible in the fact that you could be a carrier. You may not get necessarily sick, but you
Yeah,
could be a carrier of it. So you want to keep precautions such as washing your hands and all of those types of things. But
yeah,
also, he's saying, if you're sick, he says, don't go out, don't spread yourself out around with the rest of the people, because he said that that's just, he says, not, he doesn't want to, okay, he says it's just plain stupid. You do
it
stuff like that,
is.
it's just stupid.
It
Yes.
is
Erik,
stupid.
I didn't
Stay
want to
home and
say that,
watch
but Erik,
Hallmark. Seriously, the Hallmark Channel, people. It's all about love. And in the first 5 minutes, you know exactly who the girl's gonna marry. Anyway, um, and they're all so cute. All right, so now I remember the collective vibration after 9/11. It's patriotism and stuff, and also after that big tsunami in Thailand, I think it was, yeah, Thailand.
Mhm,
Everybody was just there and love. And after Harvey and Hurricane Harvey and
mhm.
stuff, so we do have the power to, you know, to get together in the vibration of love. Of course, maybe some of the 9/11 vibration was hatred and racism and anti-Muslim bull crap, but I think most of it was a love of country and love of the citizens. Yeah,
He said, yeah, and he said, and it also brought out, so when we think about on the grand scale, yes, there was the vibration of um, creating more war or creating separation, but there were all of the many stories in between, all the many lives that were touched, that crossed boundaries with each other, that even though there were two sides at opposition with each other, there were individuals that were able to, he's showing from one race to another, were able to join. He's showing breaking bread with each other. So there were a lot of stories that we maybe didn't necessarily hear about
yeah,
that happened, that were very personal for people, because he shows that all of these events had, right, just like everything has duality. These events do have the duality that we experience, but always do have this grander coming together. And there are all of these, he's calling them many little miracles that happen between people, the
oh,
stories, the perseverance. He's talking about the tsunami, about all of the different stories that came out of it, all of the people that went over and above, the survival stories, all
yeah,
of the things, because he talked about it being survival of the human spirit, surviving of human will. He says there's so many different pieces to that that are gifts in all of
yeah,
this. And
cool,
he says, again, that's to understand with your vibration, you have a choice. You have a choice every day. He says, every day you wake up, no matter what's going on around you, you have a choice. Do I want to choose the vibration of fear, of lack, of pain, of suffering, of sorrow? Or do I want to choose love? do I want to choose anything that leads me to love? Because he just wants to add to, he goes, I don't want people to think that there's no account for the fact that there are people that do suffer on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
There are people that are in pain on a daily basis and are saying right now as they're listening to this, well, that's all fine and dandy, but how do you even get yourself to a higher vibration? How do you even
I'm
start to
telling you, man,
feel
it's
better?
Hallmark. Hallmark is all I got to say. No, I'm
And he
kidding.
says,
Yeah. How do
but
you?
he says, and yes, that is if you can turn on something. He says you want to look for one step better. So if this means, if you're feeling in the depth of something, you need to accept what it is. What am I feeling right now? Because sometimes raising the vibration means being able to release that, means picking up the phone, calling a friend, means doing some art, turning on some music, watching the Hallmark channel, whatever you need to do
Favorite
that is
comedian.
one step.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
He says it's not about being able to put this expectation on yourself that I am this spiritual being and I'm going to be happy and wonderful and spread love and sunshine all the time.
And
He says,
Skittles and rainbows.
that's right. That's right. He says it is unicorns and sunshines. Sure it is. But he says it's not that way all the time. And we have to understand as human beings, we feel all of it. We are all of it. So accept that feeling and do what you can to love and nurture it, because the higher vibration is not reaching for, I need to feel better, I need to feel better, and to be able to put that expectation on ourselves. Because when we don't meet that and we continue to still feel shitty, he says, then we beat ourselves up for still feeling shitty, and then we feel like we're
I
not spiritual
know.
people. So
So
he
you have to
says,
like accept your feeling. First of all, a lot of
yeah,
us, we don't want to even know that we're feeling that fear. We sort of avoid it. But then it's, hey, I feel crappy and this is why. And that's okay because
well, and
that feeling is going to direct me out of the hole.
he says that's right, mom. And he goes, and also remember too that your vibration is operating from what's coming off of you subconsciously. So you might be thinking that you're running around with a smile on your face and I'm happy all the time, I'm good to people, and he's like trying to hold
Oh,
his
yeah, right,
like,
right. Yeah,
everything's good, everything's really good, guys, everything's awesome. And he says, but inside back here, you're just
yeah.
daggers and pain. And he says,
Oh,
that's the vibration that's really operating. So until you give yourself a little bit of love and a little bit of compassion to be able to accept how you feel, and you can do that in the way that's comfortable for you, but accept that. Accept, hey, I'm in fear. Hey, I'm afraid of this. This is going on with me. He says, accept it and do something about it. That doesn't mean you have to run out and try to fix something physically. It's about saying, hey, I could use a I could use a bubble bath right now. He
yeah.
says that's doing something for yourself. If you're doing something to honor how you feel, that's going to be a much higher vibration than running around and pretending like everything is okay.
Oh, yeah.
From that way.
But of course, you have to be careful. You don't want to be Debbie Downer, and everybody's like, "Oh God, here that person is again, going to tell the sob story."
And he
So,
goes, here's that's
yeah.
right.
So
He says, and that's important too.
you have to concentrate on just giving yourself love, and really just um, sharing your feelings with people you know will unconditionally love you, and that would say, "Hey, look, I've had enough. Okay, it's good. I'm here for you." But so, it's really weird
Yeah, and that's
because
exactly right. Yeah.
like when I was leaving for lunch that horrible day when Erik shot himself, in the car, I felt this horrible dread. So I must have been just picking up on his despair. Oh, mm, you know,
Mm-hmm. And
or
well, your souls are so connected. And so
yeah,
you were, you're so connected to him.
yeah,
Erik just wants to add to that. He says, guys, just like when we when we attach ourselves to fear or sadness, those vibrations multiply and grow. And the deeper we become in them, the more work it takes to pull ourselves out. But every he's showing like focus as in Nerf guns. He's showing like little Nerf you know, those Nerf
Oh yeah,
darts,
sure.
like the Nerf guns.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's like spewing out a Nerf gun, like little thing one at a time. And he says they build up, they pile up. So when you think positive, when you think in love towards yourself, when you think good thoughts, he says everything that you focus in that goes into this pile. It shoots all into this pile and builds up. And the more that momentum builds up, he says you're not going to keep dropping to that low point. So he says the Debbie Downers all have hope. They all
Yeah.
have hope.
Yeah. All right. So, you know, our feelings can always be, I mean, it's our soul's way of telling us, need to change something. So, you know, instead of this vibration of fear controlling us, I mean, we could look at it as some sort of useful tool, right? I mean, how do we do that? Any kind of emotion that's a facet of fear.
Yes. He says that's an awesome question, Mom, because he says that brings me right back to awareness, having awareness, and being aware of what is that fear, or what is that feeling, why do I feel that, and where does that come from? Being able to understand what it is it actually something that is an underlying fear that's attached to an experience that we've had? Is it something that we need to forgive within ourselves, that we need to move forward from? Is it something that we don't understand, that we need to educate ourselves on more? He says the soul does prompt us, and when we don't pay attention, those signals within us, the triggers, the emotions, the experiences get a little bit louder so that we pay a little bit more attention. So if you're in the habit of being aware, and that goes right back to being present and being in each moment, then you're going to pick up on these things. And he says you have to get to know yourself. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. You have to look yourself right in the eye. You
Yeah,
have
be
to
emotionally
continue.
honest with yourself, for
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Yeah, but so we need to be mindful, aware of our emotions and ourselves so that we could be little archaeologists that are digging into and unraveling that, you know, negative emotion or fear, whatever, to try to figure out the source, the root. So then that's when we get our power back. That's when we all of a sudden know how to control what is causing it.
He says yes, and that right there is how you build confidence. That's
Ooh,
where confidence
yeah.
comes.
Dogs around here? I don't know.
No
Uh,
other better way than to build confidence, than to understand yourself, and then to view yourself in real time working through these things and creating more power within yourself. He says that is an overflowing well of confidence that will continue to build in you.
so what do you tell these businesses that are the tourism business, the cruise business, all these, you know, and people who can't go to work because they're temporarily, the work is temporarily closed, but they can't do anything telewise. I mean, telecommute. Well, what do you say to these businesses that are really suffering, and also the employees of the businesses as well?
Well, he says for everyone on different levels, he says understanding, looking at this from a bigger perspective, meaning what is there? Yeah, that's true. He says get creative, because he says he's got a message a little bit different for each person, meaning the businesses and the individuals,
Okay.
because he says it's happening on all levels. So if we
Yeah.
look at a business sense, we can say get creative, start to look at restructuring. He said start to look at what's happening in the business that needs some change, because he says everything that's being affected is being asked for change. That there
Yeah.
is a he said it's a wrecking ball of sorts. We know that when the tower crumbles in some way, it doesn't mean the tower's crumbling to fall apart. It means that there is some resurfacing, some changing of things around. And he says, and on an individual basis, every individual has an opportunity to be able to look within themselves as to where they're at and what's happening in their own life that they're being gifted this time to do. Because he
Yeah.
says there are many people that have situations that are happening right now or are about to happen, that they will look back at this time and see it as a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can look at it as an opportunity. Phoenix rising from the ashes. All right, let's get down to the physics of vibration too. We started off like that, but so vibration is everything, and our vibrations are hooked to the everybody else's in the collective, and everything that gives off vibration, which is actually everything. So, is this like related to the string theory, or can you share any physics about that? Is it sacred geometry, the way the vibration is, you know?
He says yes, it is a little bit of everything, and he's showing in our aura, so our chakra systems, in our aura, our thought. He's talking about this being the string theory, about this being frequency. So there are frequencies of the universe, and so when we look at shapes and sound, that everything is in sound frequency.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying that the vibrations, okay, explain it to me in the way I can understand it.
And where I can understand, and we all can understand.
We all can understand. Okay, he says, think of it this way, that everything around us, so we are everything. We are like a universe within a universe. So everything that we see on the outside of us that science explains is also all within us at the same time. So he says there is like a infinite possibilities, and we'll call those frequencies, that are all around us, because we are also energetic frequency. And he shows like a sonar coming off of us, but there's many of them that come off of us at one time. So the ones that are connected with intention, with thought, we can direct them. And there are many different, so he's showing me everything in lines. So I can see many lines crisscrossing across themselves. So he says, when we have a thought, that frequency then runs on the vibration of its value, of what the value is. And that then allows us to be able to manifest either what is also present on that frequency, or what we have created. I don't know if this is making sense or not, because
Yeah,
he's
no,
just
it
giving me
does.
but what he's showing me is that it's all the same, but it just keeps going in infinite values, like it's all inside of us, it's all outside of us. And so it's a co-creation, because there is some that we do not have control over, because we're co-creating.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
with
But there's probably
many,
some spiritual, some understanding, mutual understanding about it when we're co-creators, even if
yes,
it's subconsciously.
on many levels, he said.
So be
So
aware of your thoughts, people.
yes, very much so.
You
But
know,
he's saying that if we're riding on, like he's showing like a video game, if we're riding on this one level, and he keeps showing me Nerf guns today. So every thought, every feeling, every emotion, where we put our attention, everything that we do, we're shooting out these little Nerf guns, and they're making like little points. And the more points we have in one direction, that's the line that we drive on. That's where we're riding.
That's where our future, it's a quantum potential. It reminds me of like a guitar, the string theory, where you pluck one and the frequency creates a particle, because light, by the collapse of the Schrodinger equation, there will be a pop quiz after this, guys. It transforms the photon with that frequency into a particle. A photon is the wave form. No, it's a particle. No, it changes a light wave to a particle of wave, a photon. So everything is light. So, and then so we are sitting there playing the guitar, hopefully better than I do, and making our own song, basically. And that song is our life, our reality. Is that a good metaphor? I think
as
it
he was
channeled to me.
saying that, you were saying that, is he's showing me the line, and he shows the line turning into a soft line, like a wavy line,
Yeah.
and then that line turns into a triangle, and it started
Oh.
to rotate. So that was the example he was giving me as you were talking there. But he said, yes, Mom, that's right.
Well, how does that, the guitar string and string theory and the nerve, how does that, what does that have to do with sacred geometry? I'm really not that good about understanding sacred geometry. I mean, when we shoot our Nerf guns, our thoughts, do we change the geometrical pattern of, I don't even know what it is, but help.
Well, he says it's of ourselves. And so this is what he's saying, of ourselves and of the universe, because the universe is within us. And so the sacred geometry is within us. And
Because
so
we
he's
are
just showing,
God. Okay. And
yes,
God is everything. Okay.
yes, yes, yes. There's no separation, he says, just separate projection.
Well, what is the variation? There's different shapes in sacred geometry. And what are the
Equations.
different ones? And
He says that there's many, but he's just showing like, he keeps showing the triangle, and
okay.
the triangle he's showing me not as just, he's showing it as a third dimensional structure, and
Okay.
as that expanding back out into a line and then making another structure that turns third dimensional. And so he's saying that they what we activate. So he says we're talking about two different things here a little bit, because it's all connected, but he's talking about the sacred geometry is what's activated within us that's also outside of us.
Okay. And
You know,
containing us. So,
yes,
a certain pattern of sacred geometry will change to a different geometrical pattern, right? I mean, if
yes.
so, what causes that, and what is the effect? I mean, can you give us a metaphor or an example? Like, okay, when so and so goes to work and his boss is bitching him out, his beautiful, and a lot of people actually artists channel sacred geometry, but his beautiful kaleidoscopy, flowery geometrical shape turns into, I don't know, help. Just save me for myself, please.
Well, he's just saying that if we think about the example of like what you're saying about a songwriter. So he says if you've got somebody that's writing a song, or they're writing a story, they're creating a story. So a person that's walking down the street, he says, when we talk about the sacred geometry, we're not necessarily saying that that person is creating sacred geometry. That is within them with the experiences that they're having. Um, Sacred geometry is something that he says is not exactly the same as the vibration. The vibration is
Oh,
within the sacred geometry. So he says we're kind of talking about two different things here, but they are still connected. So he
does it,
says when somebody's creating music, he talks about that frequency. And so let's say, for example, somebody's creating music and then somebody else listens to that music. That music can then open up what's inside somebody, the sacred geometry
ah,
that's also inside somebody else.
so
And so when
vibrations change the sacred geometry rather than the reverse, or do
it,
they both change each other?
they can change each other.
That's so cool. I think we need a whole session on sacred geometry. I think I did it. Well, I know I did it a long time ago, but I don't remember. And maybe I'll call
Erik
it.
just says that there's many different ways that we can look at this. So when we talk about frequency and we talk about vibration, sacred geometry, patterns, that is the universe. That is absolutely everything is all contained into this, but we can also pull it all apart. And he says it can get very complex.
Oh yeah, but there are different geometrical shapes, right? In each person and in the collective, and that changes, right?
And numbers, he says, and
Oh,
numbers.
okay, okay.
Numbers
Oh,
of
and
songs.
numbers.
Yeah,
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 maybe we should talk about that too.
yeah.
All right, that sounds great. Anything else you want to say, or Erik or Michelle? Do you have any other questions you want to ask?
No, I actually really enjoyed talking about this. I was really interested.
Wow, so
to
cool
see
and
how
so
to see what vibration.
timely.
Yeah,
And we're going to,
it made sense why he was popping that one out, because I wasn't quite
yeah,
sure where he was going with that, but that's
yeah.
cool.
Oh, my more smart boy. And next time, you and I are going to interview Corey Haim, is it?
Corey
Haim?
Haim.
Huh?
Corey
Haim.
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 Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to say one more thing, though. You know, Canada and the U.S. are exceptional. I don't mean to say superior, exceptional countries because they're different. People came from other countries, I mean,
Yes.
to seek adventure and have risk, etc. And these
Yes.
same countries seem to be ones that, and I could be wrong, that tend to give more to when there's tragedies in Haiti, Dominican Republic, Thailand. I mean, they just, wow, they just come together and pour out money. Am I wrong?
No.
And is that somehow related? And if it is, what's the vibrational meaning behind it? I mean, how is it related to vibration, collective vibration, probably?
Um, Eric's just saying that it's more to do with it's not that other places are not giving, but it's just more to do with the vibration of the, he says be careful with this, because he doesn't mean this as in, like, he doesn't want to say one is better than
Oh, no,
another,
of course
but
not.
to do with like society, like habits. He's even saying like there are some countries on the outside of us that have had a certain amount of struggle and have not worked the same way, whereas Canada and the US, it has had a different structure. It's not that we haven't all experienced struggle in these countries, but in a much different way than the others. And so what Erik is saying is that does affect the vibration of the people. He goes, think about the land and what's all happened on the land.
Yeah.
He goes, there is that part of things, but he says a bigger part is also society. And there is also a national or collective vibration of feeling that the US and Canada have a lot to give,
Yeah, that's
that
true.
they are wealthy countries and that they
Yeah.
have an abundance. Because he says, don't forget about the thoughts of,
Oh, yeah.
you know, all the different things that happen in the Canada and US, like monetary, like
Oh, yeah.
driving vehicles, the economy,
I
the
know.
oversized fast food, all of that stuff. So it gives off
Oh,
this
God, yeah.
sense of we need to give. So he says there's a few different aspects to why that is. But he also says 30, 40 years, a lot of things are going to change when it
Well,
comes
I
to
think
how we view
in
countries.
America and Canada, our struggles were really the initiated and our ancestors in our country of origin way back
Yeah.
when. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I do think that Canadians and Americans do give more as a general rule when there's a crisis somewhere in the world, and I think it's not out of guilt necessarily, but that's not to say we're a better country, because we got a lot of things we're worse at. Okay, there's a lot of things that other countries excel at that we don't. Okay, so no
Yeah.
hate.
No, he says no, that is exactly right. He
We
says
got
it's
our
just
own problems.
he said that it's almost like an expectation that the
Yeah.
world has.
Yep, that's true. All right. I love you, Eric. I love you, Michelle. You guys get in touch with her at thehealingh art.com. I'm finally getting good at this. And I will put that right here. Until next time, bye.
Hi, Eric says, bye, Mama.
Thank you for this.